These are the solutions for the study guide for the Chapter 10, Section 3, Chapter 10, Section 4 quiz. And so let's take a look at our first problem here. What it's asking us to do is simplify the expression, but we're going to write our answer as a power. And so all we're going to do is use the exponent rule, which says if the base is the same, we're going to subtract the two exponents, and we end up with our answer of 9 to the 6th power. In this problem, we have to use two exponent rules. And so in the numerator of the fraction, we've got some multiplication. So the rule is that you add the exponents when the base is the same. And so I'm going to rewrite the division sign in the 2 to the 5th power. Adding those exponents gives me 2 to the 19th power, and this is all over 2 to the 5th. So now the rule is if the bases are the same, I can subtract when I have division. And so when I subtract 5 from 19, that leaves me with 14. So 2 to the 14th power is the answer. Here it says to simplify. Simplify means if we had some numbers like 9 to the 6, we'd multiply them out. And so the first step is to look at the common bases and combine those. So the only bases that are the same are the x's. And so the rule is I subtract the exponents. And when I do that, I get x to the 5th power, and then I can't do anything with the y, so I just rewrite that as y to the 9th. Over here, I'm going to treat this as two separate problems, and so I'm going to subtract the exponents of the common base, so 8 minus 6, and then the p's as well, so 16 minus 4. And so 8 minus 6 leaves me with 2 3's left over, and I have p to the 12th power. So I'm going to multiply out those 3's, leaving me with 9p to the 12th power. So looking at this next one, it says the projected population of Kentucky in 2020 is about 5 times 10 or 5 times 6.1 to the 7th power. The area of Kentucky is about 6.1 to the 5th power miles squared, and so we're supposed to predict the average number of people per square mile. So that tells us how to set up the fractions. So they want the number of people on top, so 5 times 6.1 to the 7th power on top, and then the square miles on the bottom of the fraction, so that's going to be the 6.1 to the 5th. So I keep the 5 out there, can't do anything with that, and with the 6 and 1/10, since those are the same base, I can subtract the exponents. And so I'll get the 5 in there, 7 minus 5. And we have 5 times 6.1 to the 2nd power. So they want us to go ahead and multiply this out. So when I did 6.1 times 6.1, we end up with 1 and 6 carry a 0, makes 6 and 36. And so adding that up leaves me with 1, 12, 7, and 3. So I move the decimal 2 spaces over, and that's where the decimal point goes. Now multiplying by 5 gives me 5, 10, 35, and 1 make 36, and 15 and 3 make 18. And so I've got this number where I'm going to move the decimal 2 spaces over because of the 2 spaces after the decimal, so it's 186.05 people per square mile. So moving on to the next problem. We've got 3 of them. It says to simplify, we're going to write using positive exponents. And so I'll start with the rule here is I add up the exponents with the common base. And I do have some negative exponents left over, so I'm going to rewrite that as 1 over 5 to the 6th power. And if I have those negative exponents, again, take their reciprocal, they become positive. So in this one, I'm going to use the exponent rule, which says to subtract the exponents when I have the same base. So again, I'll add the opposite there. I'm left with f to the 6th power. So it's already a positive exponent, so no need to change anything. Here it says we're supposed to write a number to a power that equals 1. Well, that's just 0, the 0 power. So it doesn't matter what number you pick. 8 to the 0 power is just 1. And the reason it works out is because if I had 8 to the 2nd over 8 to the 2nd, that would equal 8 times 8. And when I go ahead and divide the 8's, I get 1. And so you can see any number to the 0 power is going to end up being 1. You're supposed to simplify the expression, write your answer using positive exponents again. So here I'm going to take the two numbers and multiply them together, and I end up getting negative 24, and then I count up my y's. So I have 12 plus negative 5. So So it makes negative 24y to the 7th power is the answer. Next one, I divide 6 into 18 and then count up how many x's I've got. 16 minus negative 8 is what I'm going to do there. So this 6 goes into 18 3 times. X, and then add the opposite, I end up getting 24 x's altogether. So 3x to the 24th would be the answer. Here it says blood donation contains 500 milliliters. 1 milliliter or cubic milliliter or millimeter equals or equates to 10 to the negative 3rd milliliters. And so here's our conversion factor we're going to end up using. And we're changing this 500 milliliters into these cubic millimeters. And so it says that 1 cubic millimeter of blood contains about 10 to the 4th white blood cells. So we're supposed to find out how many white blood cells are in this donation. So let's change our units first. So we'll start off with the 500 milliliter donation. And we're going to multiply this by our conversion factor. And our conversion factor is right here. So the cubic millimeters over 10 times 10 to the negative 3rd milliliters. And so you can see how the milliliters are going to end up canceling out. And so it says that 1 cubic milliliter or millimeter of blood contains about 10 to the 4th white blood cells. So we're going to multiply by that 10 to the 4th white blood cells to find out how many we have in this whole donation. And so here's my setup. I now need to multiply all the numbers across, and so I've got 500. I'm going to change 500 to 5 times 100. And 5 times 100 is 5 times 10 to the 2nd. And then I'm going to be multiplying by 10 to the 4th, and then dividing by 10 to the negative 3rd. And so I'll go ahead and combine these 10s, and so that leaves me with 5 times 10 to the 6th power, and that's all over 10 to the negative 3rd. And so when I go ahead and do using the division rule, it says I subtract the exponents. Minus negative 3 makes a plus positive, so now I'm left with 5 times 10 to the 9th power. So if I write out 10 to the 9th power, that's going to end up being a billion. And it's what 10 to the 9th is. So 5 times a billion leaves me with 5 billion. So there's a million, and here's a billion. So that's how many white blood cells in the donation. So moving on to the next problem, it says right here, it says evaluate or simplify the expression. And so we're going to use order of operation. And so first step is to do the exponent rule. So that makes 8. So it's 2 times 2 times 2 makes 8, and then times by 6 minus 10. So I'm going to now use the multiplication first because that comes before subtraction. So that makes 48. And then I go ahead and do the subtraction. So I'm getting negative 38 for that first part there. And this one here, I just use the exponent rule. 5 and 7 add to make 12, so d to the 12th power. And over here, we've got to use the exponent rule again. So multiply the exponents. Remember to bring 3 to the 3rd power as well. And then we'll go ahead and multiply out the coefficients of the p term, but we've got to do the exponents first. So 27 is what I get when I multiply out those 3 3's. P to the 6th times 2p to the 4th. So now I'm doubling 27, and that's where I'm getting 54. And that makes p to the 10th power. So 54p to the 10th is the answer for this one. Looking at this problem, we're supposed to find the value of t and then find the angle measures of the polygon. So we've got a triangle, and we're going to add up the angles. 90 degrees is this one right here because of the symbol they have, plus 2t plus t plus 10.5 equals 180 degrees is the sum of all the angles. And so from that point, I'll go ahead and collect some like terms. So I've got these two terms making 3t. 90 and 10.5 make 105 tenths equals 180. So subtracting the 105 tenths from both sides leaves me with 79 and 5 tenths. Dividing by 3, so showing that division there, t equals 26.5. And so now we know that value, so we can go ahead and substitute in for these variables here. So 2 times by 26.5 leaves me with 53 degrees. And so that's going to end up being this angle right here, so 53 degrees. And then the next one, I've got to do 10.5 plus this 26.5. So t plus 10.5 is what I'm doing. So 26.5 plus the 10.5, and that leaves me with 37 degrees. So this angle is 37. So on the next one, we're supposed to take these vertices and plot them. So plot the figure. So 1, 1 is A. And then we have B is 3, 1. B, and C is 3, 4. So I'll draw the figure here. And then it says, now rotate the triangle as described, 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. So clockwise about the origin means that we're going to hold firm the origin and rotate. So the quadrants are shifting in a clockwise rotation. 90 degrees is just one turn. So basically A is this x-axis becomes the negative x-axis. And so it's going to look like this. If I had a rule here for xy, for a point, the x-axis, the positive x-axis, becomes the negative y-axis. And so it's going to end up switching signs here. So we have a negative x for the y-axis. So x-axis becomes the negative y-axis. The y-axis here becomes the positive x-axis. So you can see how the y values are going to end up becoming the x values. The x values are going to switch sign and become the y values, and that's the rule that we're going to end up seeing here. So if you go ahead and actually physically turn the page, you'll see how A goes down in this location. And again, turning this x-axis coming down over here, B would be lined up right below it. So this will be A prime, this will be B prime, and then C prime. Well, C prime is going to end up falling, this is going to end up falling 90 degrees in this direction, so it's going to come straight horizontally from B. It's going to be end up being right about there, and that's going to be C prime. And so once we've got the figure drawn, now what we're going to do is find the coordinates of the image. And so A prime, if you're going to write down, is 1, negative 1. And you can see how the x value, well, this one's tough to see because the numbers are the same, but you can see how the x value ends up becoming a negative value. You'll see it with this next one here. B prime is now 1, negative 3. See, it was 3 1s. The 1 switches location, 3 switches location, but becomes negative. That's what the rule says. C prime, we have 4, negative 3. And there it is. So those are the types of problems we're going to end up seeing on the assignment or this quiz this week. Good luck.